Hey, what's going on YouTube? Back again with another video. Okay, so today I thought I'd do a arcade related video, and that is getting or how to get a Xbox 360 hooked up to an arcade cabinet. And I want to show you the setup that I have to get my Xbox 360 up connected to my Sega Blast City. And I'm going to go through the steps on how to actually make that work. Now I know that there's a fairly comprehensive guide on getting a MAME type PC connected up to a arcade cabinet like a Sega Astro City or a Blast City using Groovy MAME and stuff like that. This one is purely going to be Xbox 360 to take advantage of some of the really cool 360 games that have come out. Things like the cave shooters come to mind, and also if you are fortunate enough to have a modified Xbox 360 or a reset glitched hacked 360, you can take advantage of emulation and MAME and things like that as well. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. So here is my Sega Blast City, and it's not turned on at the moment, and what we are going to do is get this bad boy connected up to it. Now the cool part about the Sega Blast City candy cabinet is it has a VGA connector at the back of the monitor, or at the back of the CRT itself. So that means that we can just basically plug a 31 kilohertz VGA signal directly into the input itself. So, and even more better is that the Xbox 360 has a VGA cable that you can actually purchase, and you can pick these up on eBay. They're pretty cheap. I think they cost you about $15 to $20, but this is a official issue Microsoft one. But you can get kind of third-party, cheaper Chinese ones, but they all seem to do the job. And the first thing you want to do is basically plug in your 360 video into the back here, and we will then take the other part into the Sega Blast City. And let me go through that process right now. I'm just going to put the camera on the tripod while I hook this bad boy up and go through the steps. And the second thing is we want to do is the padhacks, or getting this thing connected to a 360. Getting a Xbox 360 connected to a Sega Blast City is pretty trivial. You just apply the input to the CRT itself at the back, and you're connected. But where it gets a little trickier is obviously you still need a way to use these joysticks and buttons to control the 360 title that you're playing. And the way that you do that is with padhacks, and fortunately there's a solution for that as well. And a good buddy of mine on the neo-geo forums by the name of Lemony Vengeance, and some of you guys may know who that is. He will make padhacks for all sorts of consoles and arcade machines, quite honestly. But he also specializes in the Xbox 360 stuff, and I've got some of his padhacks here. But let's connect this up first to the Sega Blast City, and then we will incorporate this into the equation as well. So don't go away. What I'm going to do is just plug in the 360 into the Sega Blast City and power that on and show you what that looks like, and then we will go from there. So I'm just going to mount this camera on the tripod here, and I do apologize because there's really not much you can see right now, but all I'm doing is taking the power supply for the 360, and I'm just going to wire it up to the power itself. And I'm going to get underneath the cabinet here, and I've already got a actually I'm going to just show you guys what I'm doing here, just to so you know what's happening here. But I'm just going to mount the camera right there, and it's going to pull out the PCB that's currently in here, and I'm not really sure what this is. I think it's Final Fight, or no, it's actually Dai Makamara. But let me show you what I got going on in here. This is the Naomi 2. I'm not going to replace that, but I've got a cable that comes out of the Sega Blast City CRT, and let me just unplug this real quick and show you what's going on in the back of the unit itself. So don't go away. I'm just gonna, what we're gonna do, guys, is I am going to move my arcade machine forward just slightly and show you what's going on in the back of this particular device. So I'm just going to mount the camera here on the tripod and just move this forward. Going to move this forward slightly. There we go. Okay, so we've just pulled the cab slightly from behind the wall, and let me show you what's going on at the back here. But we've got a rear panel here that will come away, and let me just unscrew that real quick. I'm gonna grab a screwdriver and just take it apart, but what I need to do first is just move the cab forward a little bit more so I can show you what's going on back here. But if you look at the back of the cab, we've got a rear panel here that will basically come apart, and I think I'm missing a screw here. I'm not sure what's happened there. It's actually on the ground. Right there. So we'll take care of that here in a minute, but I just need to take the screw off. Maybe I'll just use my fingers. No, I can't. Don't go away, guys. I'll be right back. I'm going to just pause here real quick, grab a screwdriver. We're going to take this panel off and show you what's going on in the back of the cab. Be right back. All right, back again, guys. Sorry about that. I'm going to just unscrew this panel here and show you what's going on at the back. Oop, there it goes. This panel will come away. And just leave that down there for now. Very tight back here, but not sure if you can see that too well. Let me get some lighting. All right, back again, and sorry about that. So I just got some light here, and it's got my iPhone torch going on, and as you can see, this blue connection down the bottom there is a VGA connection. So that's a 31 kilohertz signal that's plugged directly into the CRT chassis. So that's basically feeding the front side of the cab here, and it's this cable right here. This bad boy here, and this is our jammer harness. We'll come back to that in a minute, and these other cables are just for the Sega Naomi stuff, which we're not going to use in this particular test. So basically all we want to do essentially is get this connection from the Xbox 360 wired up to the chassis input at the back. Now, I will tell you this, that when you try to plug in an Xbox 360 directly into a Sega Blast City, what you'll find is you'll have some sync problems. And what that basically means is it'll boot up, it'll look good, but all of a sudden the signal will cut out and then come back, and it will cut out and come back, and eventually the signal will just disappear. And one of the things that I've noticed, and other people on some forums have noticed, is you need some kind of sync stripper or some kind of like a sync stripper or a signal booster or something similar to make the signal actually work appropriately. And what I've found is if you use a particular device like this, and this is a Extron device, and all you essentially do is you plug in your input in here, and this is your output. this will provide the ability to basically sync up the Xbox 360 without any issues or flickering or problems with the sync and stuff like that. So I certainly recommend you pick up one of these. Otherwise, you'll run into some difficulties. At least in the Sega Blast City, you know, other cabs may work okay. 31 kilohertz signals like a Sega Naomi, Net City, or an Upright or something like that. They may work okay, but for a Sega Blast City, you'll run into issues unless you use something like this. Now, the good news is these Extron devices are pretty cheap on eBay. This one cost me about $25. There's different models of Extron devices. You can get pretty fancy ones that cost a lot more, but you really only need something like this. So we're going to incorporate this into the mix, and let's get this all wired up now. So what I'm going to do is take my input that's come from the Sega Blast City. Sorry, that's my output. We're going to plug it into the output of the Extron device. And just screw it in here. I'm going to put the camera down for a sec, guys, because it's a little bit tricky to do this with one hand. And our analog input is what's coming from the 360, this thing. And we're going to wire it up into our analog signal here. And the other thing I will say is these Extron devices work very, very well. But I will also say that it seems to add a couple of frames of input lag. Now, it's not really a bad thing, especially because you know you're running a 360 in a cab, so unless you're trying to play Street Fighter on Xbox Live and you're concerned about input lag, you know, it's not really much of a concern, quite honestly. So, but just keep that in mind. It will throw. I don't know how many frames exactly it is, but it's a couple of frames of input lag. At least in my experience, that's the case. So we've got our input wired up. Now we don't have our audio from the 360 connected up yet. We'll come back to that in a minute. And we don't have our jammer harness connected either, and we'll come back to that as well. For now, we just want to see what the signal looks like. So if we now take our let's lift up the camera, but and I've got a huge mess going on here, but we've got our 360 with our power and our input, and here's our power supply, and we're going to hook that up here and plug that into the power strip at the back of the arcade machine here. So we got our 360 wired up, and if we turn this on, the 360 is now turned on, and now we can go ahead and turn on our Sega Blast City. Well, actually, no, we can't do that because we still need to apply power to our Extron device. So let me get a power cord for that as well. And probably just need to go into my little closet full of goodies here. Okay, so yeah, I found a power cord for the Extron device. So let's put that, we'll get that wired up here. Let's plug that into the back power here. So we have everything hooked up. Let's turn on the CRT in the Xbox or in the Sega Blast City. So let's grab the key here and I'm going to turn that off because I just remembered that we're probably running, well actually no, we're probably running at 31 kilohertz. We've got the Naomi stuff in, but for those of people that don't know, the Sega Blast City Candy Cab is a tri-sync monitor, which means it can accept a 15 kilohertz signal, a 24 kilohertz signal, or a 31 kilohertz signal. And there's certain different types of monitors and chassis that can be used, but the one that I'm using is I believe it's the kind of the original one that has dip switches to switch between, and let me just kind of zoom in there and show you what I'm talking about. We've got some dip switches that will set 31 kilohertz. Switch 1 is off and switch 1 is off and switch 2 is off. So I'm going to go ahead and set those dip switches, otherwise this will not sync appropriately. So if you look at this little cheat sheet here, you got 3 switches, so we want to set the first 2 to off, and off is down. So the switches themselves are next to the remote board, which is right here, and because down is off, we should be good to go. I just want to double check that my dip switches are all set appropriately. Now there are some later revisions of the Sega Blast City had an auto tri-sync CRT that would switch resolutions automatically, but the one that I have, at least, we need to set these dip switches. So let's turn the monitor on now, and hopefully we should have a signal here. And as you can see, it's very, very bright outside. Let me just kill this a little bit. As you can see, we have a signal, which is really cool. So, and we've got some brightness and stuff we can do. Let's maybe just turn it up just a little bit to get some brightness going on here. So just to show you once again what I've done here, we've got our Xbox 360, and let me just put that back in. We've got our 360 into our power supply. This is our power here, going to the power strip. This is our video out VGA cable that's going into our Extron device, and our output from the Extron device is going into the back of the Sega Blast City. So that's essentially all you need to do to get a 360 connected up to a Sega Blast City. And I just turned the power off and back on just to show you that once again. There you go. There's our 360 boot up, and I'm running a modified 360. So the dashboard that you see that's coming up is the freestyle dash that will come with a modified Xbox 360. So there's that. Now, as mentioned, we don't have any way of utilizing our buttons and joysticks at this particular time. So the next thing we want to do, guys, is incorporate our padhacks here. And this is Lemony Vengeance has built this, and I picked one of these up quite a few years ago now, but this is a cool little piece of kit. And essentially what you do is you plug your jammer harness into the jammer edge here, and then what you do is you take your USB connectors, and this is your player 1, and over here is your player 2, and plug them into the USB ports of your 360, and take your jammer edge and plug it into your jammer device. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to turn the power off and do all that. And just with all these kind of modified things, or these kind of homebrew things, just make sure that you put the jammer edge in the appropriate way, and there's the key there. So there's really one way this can go, but you certainly don't want to put your jammer edge, well, jammer harness in the wrong way, because you're going to cause some damage. And the other cool thing that he does is provides a CPS2 kick harness, or a CPS2 adapter to plug in a CPS2 kick harness. And I have one of those right here as well. So that will allow us then to configure our kicks in our games, such as all the cool fighting games that Capcom have come out with. So again, I'm gonna put the camera down here, guys, and I'm going to turn the power off, the CRT and the Xbox, and then I'm going to take my jammer edge right here and wire it up to the jammer edge. And again, we just want to make sure that we get the edge the right way, but there's really only one way it can go. So you just want to be careful that you plug it in correctly. I'm just going to put the camera down again. Actually, it's going to do it over here, I think. Now, it's also important to mention that this won't provide a video signal. This is just purely for the buttons, for the padhacks. So now I know that he has future kind of enhancements of these particular padhacks that will also support video as well, but this particular one is kind of like the base model, I guess. And so we've got our jammer harness from our arcade machine hooked in, and now what we want to do is take our player 1, player 2 USB and plug it into our 360 USB ports. Let's do it at the front of the cabinet here, or the front of the console, I mean. There's player 1 and player 2. So now that will give us the ability to use these joysticks and buttons. So let's power on the system. And I'm just going to turn on the CRT. Now I'm actually running a reset glitched 360, so it takes a little bit longer to boot up than normal, and if you're not familiar with the modified reset glitch 360, there's a timing hack that's involved that basically keeps resetting the 360 over and over again until it glitches itself and puts it into a mode where it allows you then to use unsigned code and in turn use kind of homebrew stuff. So it takes a little bit longer than normal to boot up this particular device, but there's certainly no issue with this particular setup. It just takes a little bit of time, and as you can see, there is the 360 that's booting up now. And I will also mention finally that there's no audio still plugged in, so we've got audio coming out of the 360, but it's not actually wired up to anything at this time. But if you look now, we can use our buttons. Let's go vertical here. And I can play some games, and I think we've got Super Street Fighter 2 or Super Street Fighter 4 in the disk drive itself. So yeah, it looks like we got a game in the drive there. Yep, that's the drive. And I've got a whole bunch of emulators and stuff on the machine itself. So the last thing I'm going to do, guys, is get this power hooked up, the speakers hooked up, and we'll get some audio going, so then we can utilize this as a cool little emulation station. And I'm going to tidy up all these wires. And what I typically do is, one thing I will recommend is don't actually put your 360 inside the cabinet. Everyone knows about the Xbox 360s and the red ring of death and getting overheated and stuff like that. I kind of recommend that you leave it on the side of the cabinet just to let the fans blow the warm air out of the 360. Now, these kind of slim devices don't have the red ring of death issues anywhere near as much as the older school ones, but I certainly wouldn't want to put a 360 in a confined space like an arcade cabinet. Now, you can leave your padhacks in there and your Extron device and all that stuff, and but I would strongly recommend leave the 360 just on the side of the cabinet. So I'm going to pause here for a sec, guys. Basically hook up some, get the audio hooked up to some speakers, and I'm going to tidy all this up and show you what the finished product looks like. Be right back. All right, so we're back, and just have done some tidying up here, but basically what we've got going on here, guys, is inside the machine, I've just put the padhacks in there. So remember, we've got the jammer harness connected to the padhacks, and we've got the Extron device. You can't see it too good. Let me just get some light on it here real quick. See if we can, yeah, there's the Extron device there. And essentially, we've got the 360 on the side here, and the Blast City is fortunate enough to have a hole at the back of it, so I'm basically feeding my cables from the 360 around the back of the cabinet into the Extron device. There's a power strip at the back of the cabinet as well, and essentially we're just we've got everything wired up kind of nice and neat, even though it's a mess of wires in here, but it's all working. So all we need to do now really is just put the front panel back on, and that's all kind of concealed, and we've got a 360 here on the side. Turn that bad boy on, and I'll show you a couple of the things I like to play on the 360 here. Just wait for this to boot up. But as mentioned, yeah, guys, I strongly recommend, if you're going to put an Xbox 360 in an arcade machine, unless there's enough kind of air circulation inside the cabinet itself, I wouldn't recommend you do it. Everyone knows about the history of the 360 and the red ring of death. And that same thing goes for a PS3 as well, if you want to wire up a PS3 with padhacks. But here's the 360, it's just booting up. As mentioned, I got a reset glitch TAC 360, so it's just going to take a little bit of time to power itself up, or to boot up. Alright, back again, just waiting for this thing to boot up. Just mounted the camera on the tripod. And there it goes. And just getting the tripod level, but there's the 360. So yeah, just controlling the 360 here with the joystick and the buttons. And I've got the CPS2 kick harness connected up as well. But let me show you, well, we'll come back to Street Fighter 4. But if we go to 360 games, we've got a whole bunch of things on here, but I'm not going to talk about, you know, homebrew and reset glitch 360s. That's not really the purpose of the interview. Just wanted to show you a couple of how the emulation runs with the MAME version, or with the 360 version of MAME. And if we go back, we can go into our emulators, and I got to say, I don't remember exactly where they are, where they live. I think it's in the emulators folder, of course. Let's run FBA next. Very cool arcade emulator. So yeah, just here's the emulation, and let's just run a couple of games. Show you how some of the things look. Let's run some Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. CPS 1. Okay, so we've got Cadillacs and Dinosaurs running here. A couple of things I'm noticing. The first one is that the screen is a little bit too stretched, so let's just reduce that a little bit and just adjust the geometry here. Yeah, let's give it some credits. And this is all running on 31 kilohertz, and you know, you can put a scanline doubler on there, or like an SLG. But you know, this is something that I think is certainly worth considering. I know that there's a lot of kind of cheap, you know, 500-in-1s and things like that that have come out of China recently. And I gotta say, I don't think any of them are really any good. I know there's kind of talk about the new, I'm not sure what it's called, like the Phoenix 3 or the Pandora 3. I don't really rate it very high. I've heard kind of good reports about it, but I've also heard that, and from what I've seen, it's you know, there's screen tearing issues and things like that. So I strongly recommend, if you want to play emulated games on an arcade machine, because you just don't really want to spend the money buying original hardware, which is completely understandable, look into getting a MAME type setup. You just can't go wrong. I mean, this looks very good, and I'm not seeing any issues with it at all, quite honestly. Okay, just want to show you a couple more emulators, how they look, and having access to, we got an Amiga emulator here, and let's run a Super Nintendo one as well. I'll show you how that looks. This is SNES 360. Yeah, we can play something like Axlay. Unfortunately, I don't have Axlay on this machine. Need to get that on there. Let's see if there's a shooter or something we can use. We can play. Let's do Final Fight. It's always a good one, isn't it? So this is SNES emulator. Just adjust the geometry, and I guess that's one of the minor things that you have to kind of mess around with, is the geometry on some of these emulators. Yeah, this game has a turbo button. They look. Let's go ahead and run something like, let's do Death Smiles 2, which is the sequel to Death Smiles by Cave. This is a cool one to have because obviously it's very difficult to find as an arcade release, and the 360 version is the only one that's available. But this is just a 360 game. This is not emulation, of course. But yeah, guys, I'm going to leave it here, and I'm just going to play a couple of minutes of this game. But yeah, just wanted to show you the Xbox 360 hooked up to a Sega Blast City arcade machine. If you have a Blast City or you're thinking about getting one, and you're thinking about connecting a 360 to one, it's not that difficult to do. Just remember you need to get some kind of sync stripper like an Extron device, and also some padhacks, and you can build your own. It's not hard to do, but just unfortunately what you need to do is sacrifice a couple of joypads, of course, to make it work. But like I said, there's a gentleman out there by the name of Lemony Vengeance who makes the padhacks. So if you're interested, strongly recommend you take a look at his work. He does some really awesome work. But yeah, this is a 360 in a Sega Blast City, guys, and I'm going to leave it here. Hopefully this will influence you guys to consider doing something like this. I think it's personally a great idea. I don't mind emulation, especially if the emulation's good, and certainly there are some PCBs out there that are just way too expensive to consider purchasing. So, but yeah, I've rambled on enough for today, guys. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend, and I will talk to everyone soon. Catch you later.